Hi everyone, I'm Fanny.
Hi everyone, I'm Jayce.
Welcome.
And I'm Alyne.
Welcome to Freelance Creative Exchange, where every episode we talk about freelancing and the gig economy.
Today here we're very honored to have invited Alyne to join us today. So she is the creator of Dear Alyne, a Facebook page with over 1.2 million followers from around the world. She creates weekly videos that open up conversation around different type of topics like the pink tax, the visa trap, and other relevant social issues. And today, we would like her to join us to actually talk a bit about issues that she has a soft spot on, like for example for women's rights, animals, and of course, many other issues that will see her as an entrepreneur or as a solopreneur in that sense.
My name is Alyne, and I sort of ended up as a content creator almost accidentally. I didn't have any big plans to be a content creator. I think just when you are a bad employee, you end up as an entrepreneur. So I haven't always been. I don't love following instructions. I don't like sitting in an office. I like having parties and like hosting people, and that's not a great, perspective for
we love that too.
an employee. My old bosses didn't. They were like, Alyne, you're supposed to be working. I'm like, I'm planning the company party. Yeah. So I kind of ended up, and I have a lot of, like you mentioned, social issues, things that I care about. And I wouldn't call myself retired, but I was like semi-retired for a few years for my age. I was taking a break. I had been part of a company that my share had sold. And so I was okay for a few years. But I was noticing online so much of the content is either really boring or it's kind of gross, like clickbait. Like the women are always portrayed, and even if the women are portrayed normally, they're kind of slightly always sexualized or super cute. It's never just like a woman exists, whereas like a man can exist. You know what I mean? And I didn't love that. And so I wanted to I wished someone was saying more of a message of what I was thinking. And I kept looking for someone who was saying that message so that I could support them. And I couldn't find anyone that said exactly what I wanted to be heard. And so I was like, man, I guess I have to say it. Like, no one else is going to do it. I guess I have to do it, And that's what we all have to do is, like, no one else is going to do what you want to be done. So this is kind of more of I don't see it as a job. I see it as, like, a duty to myself to have an effect on the world that I want to see, if that makes sense.
Right, of course. It makes total sense. Yeah. I think right now, even in Singapore, right, a lot of the young people are now talking about purposeful driven jobs, right? So what are the purpose and what are the motivation is very important to a lot of the people, I would say, right now. So now that you moved to Singapore, would you be able to share with us a bit more about the change in the culture and the shift?
So I would say there is a big difference in moving to Singapore. So for me, I'm from the West. I've traveled a lot. I'm pretty outspoken in general. I've trained myself to be that way. I am that way. And I've noticed in Singapore, most people, of course I cannot generalize, are not super outspoken.
Yeah.
Yes. Which I struggle with, because if you're in content creation, that's the whole point, You need to be louder than everyone. You need to be more direct than everyone. You need to say your message. And so I think work-wise, it's been fine here, no problem, finding work and things like that. Just the problem, I think, is kind of connecting with other creators and other people in the industry, because I find that people are very quiet. And so I struggle to connect with them because they're so quiet. Not everyone, but more than I would expect in a field where you're in front of the camera, or you're creating content. So, I mean, I don't want to be an outsider that comes in and is like, you should change, So it's like, but I would love people to be more outgoing a little bit,
Yeah. So you also travel around Asia, the rest of Asia. So
Yes.
do you get the same feeling?
No.
Only Singapore.
I can't say only, but Singapore is the only place I've lived, so I cannot speak about anywhere else, because I've only visited. But like I went to Taiwan recently. People were quite outspoken, like even at the Meetup, outspoken. The girls that came to travel with me for the duration of the trip very vocal, like, you know, and in meetings everyone was vocal. And here I noticed it at you guys had an event the other day.
Right.
They hosted an event, and this is not the first time. At almost every event I've gone to with Singaporeans, that as the large majority of the audience, when the Q&A comes, it's like so quiet. It's like no one's asking questions, and that's I've never seen that. And I've been to Q&As in all over the world. Like sometimes it takes a minute because people are shy at first, but usually once it starts, it's like a line of people. I've never seen like a line of people waiting to ask questions.
Yeah.
And it's like with amazing speakers, and I'm like, man, if I had the chance to talk to someone like this, I would have 20 questions. I would be like, here is every question I've ever wondered.
It's a culture thing. Yes, that's right. So even if you go to like classes and things like that, you would ask questions. Right? Usually the Singaporean don't ask questions. But then after that, they will follow up with the lecturer and say, oh, can I meet you at 12 p.m.?
That's what happens. People come up at the end. And I'm like, why didn't you ask this in front of the group to benefit everyone? But I have some local friends who were like, I was talking to them about it. I was trying to understand. I don't want to be like saying something's wrong. And they were like, oh, it's because at school, when we were little, you would get in trouble if you asked a dumb question.
Yes,
and even the
that's
teacher
true
would
as
give
well.
you crap. And in the US, that's like not okay. Like you're maybe in the Midwest, but in the liberal coasts, if you ask a question, the teacher has to be nice about it. They can't ever say like, that's a dumb question or why did you ask that? It's encouraged. So I guess it's just if you're raised like being told not to ask questions, that makes sense.
So I guess one question that a lot of viewers may want to know about from you is, how do you actually build a community using positive content? Is there some special formula?
That's my favorite topic. So I love to build communities. That's kind of the whole point of everything I do. And I do it in a lot of ways. So one is through the content I create on Dear Alyne. So the videos I make are pretty much all in the same vibe. First of all, my videos are 80% fun and upbeat. Even if it's a really bad, difficult topic, I'm still like, and then they died. You know, like it's like positive view, and like I have a friend who was suicidal and then overcame it. So I still talk about suicide, but then I talk about the overcoming. So that's what makes it positive. I'm not just talking about suicide and then leaving you with a sad taste in your mouth. I'm talking about how someone overcame it and what you could maybe do to overcome feeling that way. And then I always push people towards my group, women. So men, my content is women-oriented. Women often need a safe space to talk. A lot of men are great and very supportive of women, but those few that are not kind of ruin it for the rest. So having a women-only group is a great way for women who are often more demure, more shy, more afraid of feedback, negative feedback, being told they're wrong or stupid, are way more open when there's only other women. So I always link at the end of every video. I link to my group. I say, if please join 120,000 other women from around the world to discuss this topic and others like it. And that way everyone who watches the video is a potential lead to your community.
Right.
And I don't monetize that, but if you wanted to monetize in some way, you could lead them to a community that does monetize, maybe your video classes or whatever. So each video is free and links to a free group. I even have another group that's a book club because I like reading and I want to have, women and men, that's for anyone, exposed to new books. And then Instagram, I foster community by making sure that at least 20% of my Instagram stories are interactive. So the poll feature, the question feature, sharing people's responses, so that they know I'm reading some of their messages, sharing them on the stories, like, oh, this person said this, haha, or whatever. And that way everyone feels like they're interacting constantly even with each other. If that makes sense.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So those are some like specific tips of how I foster community. And meetups. Oh, that's a huge one. So I do meetups for the girls. So it's called Girls Gone Global. That's the Facebook group. The meetups I do via an app that one of the girls in the group made. It's called Vibely. It's free. Everything's free. And you can use it even if you're not a girl. You download the app. It's kind of like couch surfing, but for meetups. And if I showed it to you now, there's little circles. So in Singapore, there's like a circle. And you click on the circle and it shows you all the girls in Singapore. So you can message one and be like, hey, do you want to get coffee? Or you can make an event and everyone in the group is invited. So you could do one for what you guys do. You could post immediately a meetup and then have a bunch of girls come, And anyone can do it. It's not just me.
Yeah,
I'm
right.
not the only one with access. Everyone has equal access. So like if you're traveling to London, you can click on London and then you're immediately in a London group chat.
Wow.
Only with girls from Girls Gone Global.
I see.
So that way you know they're
Yeah.
connected to Dear Alyne somehow.
Yeah.
You have a
Right.
higher level of trust and
Right.
common interest.
I see.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That sounds
So
interesting.
there's a lot of angles. You have to attack community from many angles so
Yeah.
people
That's
feel
true.
supported.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Right. So which one is your favorite, I would say, videos, right, on your Facebook group, or which one is your favorite, if I may call it, campaign? Like, have you tried any activations, that
Favorite just because I enjoyed it the most, or favorite because it was strategic?
maybe what you enjoy the most first, and then what is strategic to you?
I get a lot of feedback on a lot of videos, but one video that I think kind of cemented the community was the video I made in Albania, which was the video called "Is This Funny?"
I saw that.
Yeah. Yeah. So that video wasn't fun to experience
Yeah.
because it was a man
On the
being
show.
sexist on TV. When I was on the show with him,
Yeah.
like this, you know, and then he's like sexist, and I'm like, okay, what's happening? And so essentially, I complained on the TV show, on TV, and I was like almost crying, and I was it's just like I explained in the video, like it's not the one time that someone said something offensive and sexist to me in front of my boyfriend, in front of a million people. It's like the fact that that would even happen shows the type of culture. The fact that someone would get to that point and think it's funny or think it's okay was just like a lot for me. And I think a lot of women are at that breaking point where Singapore is amazing. You guys don't have that much sexual harassment compared to other places. So in other countries, like the police would like rape me, you know, like here they're like, go away, you know, like it's so different here. But like in Peru, horrible. Eastern Europe, quite bad. I mean, India. I mean, Pakistan, you know. And these countries to us sound like so remote, like Pakistan. Who cares what's happening in Pakistan? I mean, those are real people. And they message me, so I care what's happening in Pakistan, you know? And that's why I create these groups, because for the few girls who do have internet access and, you know, a handle of the English language high enough to understand the conversations, like this is a great resource for them and really helps them. So that video, I think, was really impactful in that it was a video I was really scared to release, and I didn't think it would what would happen. I thought I would release it just because I feel the need and responsibility to release it, and I would get a lot of shit from people, and they'd be like, you're overreacting, you're such a drama queen, like, and I did get that. I got like death threats, I got like guys threatening to rape me, like all this crazy stuff, and like that stuff doesn't matter because it reached all the right women. On the flight here, the Singapore Air flight attendant was like, I saw that video, I loved it, it's amazing, like I'm so happy you said that. Like it reaches, I think a lot of people are scared to talk about things that could get them negative feedback, and I think that can help you build your community, is if you're willing to stand up for your community.
Yeah. I was just interested to know, how do you start, where do you get this idea of creating content and creating a presence and a community using Facebook page? Was that because you were already in the creative industry, hence you understood the power of content? Or what actually caused you to actually start doing this in the first place?
Yeah, so it's two things. One, I was part of a company that made organic viral YouTube videos. So I was in that company for 3 years, and I did a lot of the creative, a lot of the marketing. I was at a high level in that company. So that was my life for 3 years. Then I was doing my like retirement phase where I was like, I'm kind of dabbling in social, working for other people, but I can do whatever for the rest of my life. You know, I don't care anymore. And then I met Nas Daily, and he was making, so I had been on YouTube before. I was not creating on Facebook. And so he was creating on Facebook. We ended up dating after a year of meeting, and we were traveling together during his 1,000 day video journey. So he was making a video every single day for 1,000 days, which means 100% of our life was about video making. And after about a year of this, of 300 plus videos, I was like, I kept bothering him to make videos about like, make a video about women, or make a video about like how we can't wear whatever we want, or make a video. And finally he was like, you make the video. I'm not going to make every video you want anymore. And I was like, no. And he was like, make it yourself. So I was like, fine. And so because he told me to make my own videos, I just ended up making them as like a sort of like, fine. And I continued to make them just because it's built a community. I've honestly kind of said everything I want to say, but there is always more that should be said. Like I should do a video about honor killing, I haven't done that yet. I should do a video about like in some countries women can't walk on the street, So these are topics that I have in the back of my head that are hard topics that I am biding my time on, but I will do eventually. Yeah, so that's how I started.
That sounds great. So how regular do you create a video in that sense? Do you have like, because NAS is one video a day, right? Do you have that kind of...
So I had a normal schedule, a weekly upload schedule.
Oh, okay.
I'm not like your typical creator. I'm not someone who like loves creating videos and only thinks about video and wakes up and I want to make 3 videos a week like a lot of people, and I want to keep the schedule to grow my channel, and that's all I think about. That's not all I think about. I barely think about it compared to other people. To me, it's more like I think about a topic that's important to me and I want to present that topic.
Right.
Almost more like a filmmaker, where it's by topic and not by schedule. Originally, I had a weekly upload schedule just to make sure I have some kind of cadence. And then the Facebook algorithm was really being annoying. And so I was like, I'm not going to deal with weekly uploads.
Right.
And now I upload whenever I want, which turns into approximately weekly. Yeah. But I don't feel the pressure.
Correct, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really about the message, right, that you want to tell, and you must tell it in the right way, and not instead of rushing for schedules and then, just get it out there.
It's good to rush for schedules if you can. It's just, for my mental health, it doesn't.
Right.
I'd rather be chilled out than stressed.
So after doing this for a while, because a lot of the content creators in Singapore actually, to be frank, struggle with sustainable income, right, from creating content. So how do you overcome, is this a challenge in the first place, right?
Yeah.
And then if it is, how do you actually overcome this sustainable income from
Why
content
do you
creation?
think they struggle with it though? Is their content not good enough? Like are their channels not strong enough? Because I don't think it's because of lack of opportunity. Because I think Singapore has quite a lot of opportunities for content creators compared to other countries, because other countries they pay them like nothing. But here there's usually okay budgets. And I'm genuinely curious, like, do you think it's because they're just beginning and they don't have any like proof of concept? I have a proof of concept, right?
Right.
If you have a reach of 1 million,
Right.
then you can make money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's I'm just an advertising platform to brands. That's what they see me as, a way to get eyes, So if you don't have a following, they're not going to pay you for your following. Now, let's say you're good at making videos. They might pay you to make the video for their channel. So you need to look at what you're good at. Are you going to make the content for the brand and it's for their channel? That's one thing. Are you going to make the content for your own page and you're seen as an advertiser and you're getting eyeballs for them? That's a totally different thing. With a different pricing structure. That will be a higher price. You need to charge more for having built your audience than if you're just creating content for someone else. So I think you have to look at
I think that's a
the
good
clear
point.
indicators why they might not be getting work someone if they're beginning.
Right.
So let's say there's a young female student out there who wants to start making her content, start her own, community.
Yeah.
What are some of the stories about being a female you think that they should leverage on?
I mean, everyone has their own story, right? And no one else has your story, and you know your story the best. So you should share your story. Like my story is not that interesting, theoretically. I'm not like a war survivor. I grew up in Los Angeles. I felt very uncomfortable for much of my life as a woman because of the way we're pressured to look and act and be beautiful all the time and be blonde and skinny and tall in Los Angeles. And I wasn't any of those things. So, like, it was very unpleasant, like, being in my own body, And so a lot of my videos are about confidence and building your confidence and, I'm not wearing makeup or didn't do my hair, like being comfortable as a woman doing things like that maybe would be looked down on sometimes in some circles. So that's such a simple thing, but that's my experience. Or I'm divorced. Like, I'm, what else am I? I left my religion. I used to be really religious, raised very, very religious, and it was like a big deal to leave. I draw from my experiences. You know, I made a video about getting divorced and how we should take away the stigma, because in a lot of countries, women are seen as secondhand or seen as, you know, defective. The men aren't. The men are fine if they're divorced, you know, but the women, you know.
That's true.
So I'm just, I don't know why I get so riled up by this stuff. Other people just take it in stride, and I'm just so sick of like being seen as second class because of such silly stuff that I go all the way, you know. So, yeah.
So what are some of the projects that you're working on other than the podcast?
So other than the podcast, the videos, the group, the actual jobs from clients, and the free stuff we do, I'm working on my first retreat, which is like really fulfilling. I only told people about the retreat on my Instagram. That's it. I didn't put it on Facebook or anything because people on Instagram are, I feel closer to them because it's a smaller group. It's only like 170,000. And so
Sorry.
I mean, Raven and Kyle, you must work harder.
compared to 1.2 million, you know, like you refine it to the people who are most dedicated. And then, you know, maybe only 30,000 watch the stories every day, every single day. So out of those 30,000, who are half is women, you know, so you're cutting it down. Who can afford it? Who has free time? Who is interested in this? Who's at the right time of their life where they're ready to like, this is made to level up. This is for you, whatever business, creation, personal life, I don't care. Everyone will level up. Everyone needs something different. You know?
But thank you for bringing this up. I'm so sorry that we laugh like that, right?
No, it's fine.
But it's really, in Singapore, it's really big numbers, you know, for any of our content creators. Well, I guess maybe one of the reasons is because a lot of our content creators tend to be very localized.
I do agree with what you're saying that Singapore is a bubble. And it's kind of crazy because Singapore is like right between all these other countries. It should be like the opposite of a bubble. You have access to everything so easily. But you're 100% right. The content creation here is hyper focused on Singapore. With like Singapore, I can't even watch it and I live in Singapore because they say stuff like jokes in Chinese. And I'm like, I don't speak Chinese, you know? I don't know what these jokes are, you know? And I live here and I want to understand. So, of course, like, you know, I do not direct my content at any one country. I am always thinking about, I mean, where are the internet users? They're in India, you know, they're in Vietnam, they're in the US. Like, so I am constantly like in my videos thinking about the people there and think about what you create, right? So I create content that wants to support people who need support. Those are the places people need support often, right? And I, of course, think about the strength of my page. So I'm American, so I want to make sure I have a good American audience. So I make sure that I sometimes make a video where I go where I grew up and I put an American flag, you know, so people in the US feel a connection. But then I also say the visa trap. I make a video about how, you know, in Bangladesh, and I name the countries, Philippines, Bangladesh, you know, the countries where it's hard to get a visa so they feel included. And then, you know, traveling, you can travel. You don't have to travel. It depends on your type of content, but you could travel now and then you bring in new people from new areas. Yeah, of course, you can't only focus on Singapore and expect to grow bigger than a certain amount. You know, there's a cap.
I think that's important.
Yeah.
So after you left your job, I mean, formally a few years ago, till now, what are some of the biggest challenges you've met?
Whew. I mean, the beginning is usually the hardest because you're not sure what you're doing and you need to build confidence in what you're doing. So I usually just tell people what I did. So what I did is I Googled on Craigslist, which is like a job finding website kind of in the US, but kind of like a ghetto job finding website where they also have like weird stuff. And I just put travel.
Okay.
Found a job in travel. Not high paying, not fancy, travel agency, only women though, which is cool. And ended up working there, didn't like the job, so I proposed that I do their social media and website. I invented a new job at my job, and they said yes. So each of these was so scary to say to my boss, like, I don't want to do travel agency stuff. I don't like it, but I will do your website and social. That's hard. So I used to hate selling. I thought salespeople suck. If I hear the word sales, I'm like, sales. Everyone, sales sucks. And it's so silly that like I felt that way because sales is everything. So even when the way you frame yourself to your boss, like, hey, I'm selling my skills at social media and web design so that I can no longer be booking people's flights. So that's like, I remember being so scared to tell her. And then I told her, I don't want to work in the office anymore. I want to work from my home. And I was so scared. And I want a raise. And I want to work only part-time. So like, you know, but I framed it in a way that it's appealing to her. Like, hey, like I would love to keep working for you, but I need to do it from home and I can only work part-time. But if the value of what I'm providing goes down at all, you can cut me off, you know. Yeah. I'm making sure I provide value still. And then when I started working from home, and then suddenly my home was in Albania. And that's how I became a digital nomad. You know?
Right.
Yeah.
I think that is very
So you have to
interesting.
take those scary steps. There's so many scary steps. Every step is scary. You know, making a I uploaded a 19-minute podcast to Facebook. That is unheard of. Of course that's scary. Who watches 19-minute videos with no editing on Facebook?
So how was the result then?
Great, fine. You know, fine. Like, but even if it had failed, I don't care because my goal was to fail. My goal was do something where you have a high chance of failure. And that's to put a 20-minute podcast on Facebook.
Actually, recently our PM Lee also said we need to fail.
Yeah,
In order
Singaporeans need to
Singaporeans
fail.
need to fail.
We need to ask the stupid questions.
Yes, ask the stupid questions. I was joking with them that at the next event, I'm going to charge $100 to everyone who doesn't ask a question. Event is free unless you don't ask a question.
That's a good one though.
Yeah,
We
that's
should
a good
consider
one.
as
Yeah.
well. Yeah, maybe 100 a bit too much.
You're like,
$10,
no, they need to ask a question. It's free if they ask a question.
Right. So having overcome all this, right? So where do you see yourself going in the next 5 years? I mean, now that you make Singapore a home, then in the next 5 years, where do you see yourself going?
My life is so unpredictable. My life is so unpredictable. I will not even pretend I have any clue where I will be in 1 year. You know, my relationship is like this, exploding all the time. No one knows what's going to happen. Neither of us knows what's going to happen. My career is always changing. I could end up, you know, doing retreats full time. I could end up making more videos. Most likely, 5 years.
Well, our
not
government
even
always
gonna-
make planning 10 years, 20 years ahead. Yeah, 30 years ahead.
Nope. If you plan too far ahead, you're not taking the opportunities that come to you. Because the opportunities that come to you are almost never what you expect, unless you're planning to be like a doctor. Then you know you need to follow steps. But for the type of life that I live, no, you just like, you'll have 5 opportunities, you take the one that you like the best. You have 5 more, you take the one you like the best. If I'm just following certain opportunities to get to a certain goal, I mean, my only goal when I was younger was like to make $1 million, you know? And I just had that goal because I know it's important to have goals, but it's kind of a vague goal. There's no timeline. There's no whatever. And it still happened, you know, like if you have the goals, you know, it will happen. And so I really suggest that people do something called vision boarding, which is, I don't know if that's a common thing here.
Not really, actually. This is the first time that I heard about
No,
it. I mean,
no.
we heard about map
concept.
visioning.
Yeah.
Right? Like you envision a map or map
We should do a
mapping and all
vision
this,
boarding
right?
workshop. It's so fun. So you get a bunch of magazines and scissors and then like a board, either like a cork board or you can get like a big piece of paper. It doesn't matter. Whatever. It depends how fancy you want to go. And then you cut out different things in the magazines that represent stuff that you want. And I wanted to have travel. I wanted to have animals. I wanted to have beautiful views. That's what I wanted. Not money, not success. I just wanted nature and travel. And so I made a vision board right after my divorce when I was like, before I got my job, when I was like, wow, my life is a huge disaster. And everything on the vision board came true. I ended up traveling. I was a digital nomad. Because when your mind is focused on something, like that was my 5-year plan, was literally a bunch of pictures of dolphins and palm trees. So
nice.
like, I think my guess is Singapore, if it follows the stereotype of Asia, is very focused on, in general, like specific goal or specific job. Whereas I'm more of like the laissez-faire attitude of like, go for a lifestyle.
Right.
Hopefully that's not too vague.
No, I think it's
Palm
certainly
trees and
yeah. I think that's the life of a lot of our young, people.
The younger
or you call
Singaporeans.
millennials.
Yeah.
Dreams towards
Where they
it,
do that.
Yeah.
What are your goals? Do you have like a 5-year plan?
I don't.
I thought moving into Sentosa Cove was part of your 5-year plan.
See, you want to go to Sentosa.
Since I cool,
You
I want to buy an
stay in
apartment.
Sentosa.
See, there's nothing
5
wrong
years.
with the 5-year
Yeah.
plan.
Yeah.
But I think there's something wrong if you feel like you have to invent one. But see, if you have something you want, then of course it's good.
But I guess the reason for myself is because I have kids. I have 3 kids, and
Yeah.
they're very
You have
young.
3
Yeah,
kids.
so it's very hard because your
That's
goals
different.
keep changing.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
right now
yeah.
I'm just kind of living for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's different. Like in Singapore context, especially for women who has kids, they
it's
have
so
to give
hard.
up a large part of their
Yeah.
career.
Yes. Oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Having kids is anything I say does not apply if you have kids because that's a whole different beast.
Yeah,
like
it is.
it's so hard.
It's quite hard. Yeah,
I
because
don't
they
know
are
how you
different-
do anything with kids.
I can't.
How are you here?
I
How are you
literally-
here?
I need to engage a whole village to take care of them so that I can be at
Yeah.
work. So it is hard. Yeah.
So it's always about support, I guess. Yeah. I think
Support.
support is very important.
Yeah. So I have a last question for
Sure.
you, and the question is, as an influencer, as a real influencer here, what kind of content would you want to see from our local content creators? What are some of the content which you think are lacking in the space for Singaporean content creators?
Well, I think there's a huge opportunity for Singaporean content creators because I think a lot is lacking. So I think whereas some markets are very saturated, Singapore's content, from what I've seen, I'm not an expert on the content here. It seems, like you said, very Singapore oriented. And also, Nas said this, not me, but Nas said that it's sometimes good to work on accents. So, while of course on one hand our other friend Aegon has an accent and he says my accent is my music, it's beautiful. So I'm not saying accents are bad, but some accents are difficult to understand for people from outside of your area. So I think people that are making more of an effort to connect with the outside world might, speak in a cadence that is easier to understand, because it's really hard for us if Singaporeans are speaking fast with their Singaporean accent,
Yeah.
and we live here and it's still hard and we're not sure,
Yeah.
always what is being said. And if we are sure, it's like a brain strain. It's like if I have a very strong American accent, but I'm from the South, like it would be hard for you guys
Yeah.
to really understand because it's so thick. Or Nas. If Nas still had his Arabic accent, no way he'd have the following he has now. Some Arab dude telling you what to do all the time. Like, no. He's an Arab guy yelling at you with Arab accent. No, that wouldn't work. So I think, like you said, focusing content that is relatable to outsiders. So it can still be about Singapore, but maybe in a way that's relatable to people coming here, without the inside jokes, without the Singapore specific references, without the acronyms, and just more personal. I feel like a lot of the content here that I've seen is funny or but funny only to you guys, because we don't get the jokes. So maybe more personal, where I want to know who you are. I want to know who is a Singaporean. What is life here like? What are your problems? What is so great here? The problems here are smaller than other places, but one problem they have in Singapore that could be an interesting video is you grow up living with your family, and it's the culture to live with your family, and even if you wanted to move out, which a lot of people I meet want to move out, you can't afford it. It's too expensive.
Yeah.
And in most countries, there is a cheaper area to move. If I'm from California, I can move to a shitty area of California that's cheaper. You don't have that in Singapore. It's a city, You have to move to another country. So that would be a really interesting video that would be fascinating to outsiders to hear, is we can't move out. We can't afford anything because prices are interesting to everyone. Money is interesting to everyone. And the human story is interesting to everyone. So finding human stories, if you can't travel, human stories in Singapore that are relatable to people outside of Singapore. I would love to see more of that, or to hear people's experiences and feel more connected to local people via content.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
good idea actually. If you have one piece of advice that you can give your younger self,
Okay.
what would it be?
I have so much advice. I have like a novel I should give her. I would say, it's so hard. I would just say everything will be fine, you know? I don't need to change anything. Even my divorce, my eating disorder, my religion, staying in it for so long. It's fine because it got me here and I'm happy with where I am.
Wow. You are our first guest that really say, I don't need to change anything.
Wow, really?
Yeah. Most of them have something to say to themselves.
They're like, I mean, I'm scared to change anything because I like where I am, you know?
That's good.
And maybe if I didn't have these hard things, if you don't have something bad happen, you don't make the big change. You just keep going and you're like, I'd be living a more basic life than I would want because I wouldn't have been pushed to change.
Yeah.
I would have just stayed in my version of my own mediocrity for a long time because I would have made excuses.
Yeah, but I guess that's, true for everybody. I think people should try to be a bit more kind to themselves, right?
Yeah.
Instead of, beating themselves out for every mistake that they made, but embrace it as a learning experience.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The world is structured to make you feel bad about yourself, so ignore the world. I love that quote, like, it's an act of rebellion to love yourself. It's a great quote. Like, you want to be rebellious? Ignore all the media, ignore everyone telling you you're not good enough, and just F you guys, and just do your own thing, Nobody else knows the right answers, so you know the right answers.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us for another episode on our Freelance Creative Exchange.
If you enjoyed the show, let us know by leaving a review in iTunes.
Subscribe and hit the bell button so that you won't miss out on our next interview. And of course, please follow Alyne as well, especially if you're female. Yeah, girls gone global.
Until then, bye-bye.
See you. Bye.
Bye.